Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very exciting segment today on the 28th day of June. Yes, we're getting very close to that date. Yes, the end of financial year is just 2 days away, 30th of June, as at all the financials say 30th of June. And we'll look at what might be on the lookout for when we talk about ITL. Well, right now the census results have been slowly made available. Not everything is out in the open. So the millenniums are catching up with the baby boomers. Here's that report.
Time at the centre of policy debate may soon be coming to an end. The latest census data out today shows they're being matched in numbers by millennials for the first time. The Australian Bureau of Statistics is about to release the first tranche of data from the 2021 census today. Data shows boomers and millennials now account for 21.5% of all residents. The population is also becoming less religious, the proportion of Christians dropping below 50% for the first time ever. 39% of Australians now identify as non-religious, up from 30% in 2016.
So there you are. It will be interesting to see all the results that come out, and one of the things that's topping the list there is the number of migrants who are coming in from India. It is one of those reports, so let's take a look at that report.
With millennials now rivaling baby boomers as our largest generation. Those aged 25 to 39 make up 21.5% of the population, the same as those in the 55 to 74 age bracket. The snapshot also found that nearly half of all Australians have had a parent born overseas, and more Australians are identifying as Indigenous.
Overall, our population has doubled since 1971 to 25.5 million people. Lots of detail to unpack with Stephanie Boris in Parliament House. Good morning to you, Steph. You don't need to sort of love statistics to want to dive into this census and find out what it tells us about Australia.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether to admit I'm loving this, Lisa, but you did, so I can then as well. This data all comes from last year. All of us across Australia were asked to fill out this form in August. So this is the 2021 census, and it confirmed that we've got 25.5 million people here in Australia, which is 2 million more than the last census in 2016. So the question is exactly, who are we all? Well, the largest cohort of people is now at a tie. It used to always be baby boomers first, but now it's the millennials, which is that 25 to 39-year-old age group too. So in both of those cohorts, they have 5.4 million people. So they're the largest generational groups. Christianity remains the most common religion here in Australia, over 40% of people, but that figure is dropping. If we take a look back at previous censuses, in 2016, it was just over 50% of people putting Christianity as their religion. It was 60% in 2011. There are, though, more people reporting no religion, almost 40%. That's an increase from 30% in 2016. Now, as we know, Australia is a very multicultural society, and this is shown through the figures of the census. Almost half of Australians have a parent born overseas, and nearly 28% of people living here were born overseas. In terms of where people were born, of course, first is Australia, followed by the United Kingdom, but India is now ranked third in terms of the number of people born overseas. So that does mean we've got a lot of people speaking different languages here as well, and Mandarin continues to be the most common language that's spoken at home apart from English, followed by Arabic. And then when it comes to the setup of households across Australia, the number of marriages compared to 2016 has declined slightly, and the number of divorces are slightly up.
And so they're the changes in the population. There were some new questions as well this year.
Yeah, that's right. A couple of new questions. The reason they're put in is to further help both state and federal governments look at, maybe what policies need to be introduced or how to better prepare Australia for the future. So one of those questions was around long-term health conditions. Over 2 million people say they've either got a mental health condition, arthritis or asthma. And of those 2 million, more female than men ticked the yes box. Also, we've got more than 500,000 Australians that are either serving in the Defence Force or have served in the ADF, and nearly 25,000 same-sex marriages since the Marriage Act was changed in 2017. Now, a lot of figures to take in. Some may be more interesting to people than others, but my personal favourite fact, Lisa, out of this data is the caravans. Now, COVID-19 really changed the way not only that we lived, but how we travelled, what we did, and the latest census data says 60,000 caravans are now here in Australia. It's a 150% increase since the last census. So it shows that people are getting on the road and travelling around Australia and seeing all those beautiful sights that are to be seen.
Absolutely. I love the fact that Australia does this census. Not all countries do them. Not all countries have the number of questions as well. I will let you to dive back into the figures, Steph. We'll catch up again soon.
And let's dive back into our news segment. Well, of course, we've seen those figures coming out of the census. India ranks number 3 when we look at people born overseas, which is quite an increase over the years, and it is now an Hindu religion is also getting up there as well. But right now, let's look at the racial segregation in Australia in 1965.
One of the most persistent news reports of the past week has come from the western towns of New South Wales. The towns being visited by Sydney University students in a bus, calling themselves after the American freedom riders and surveying, as they are, the Aboriginal conditions in these towns and opposing segregation wherever they find it. The reaction in some places has been violent. Their bus was rammed by a truck several times. The police have had to escort them out of town. And certainly it's probably been an eye-opener to many people that the reaction should be as it has been. And that's the question we're going to put to people on the street in Sydney today. How do they feel about the segregation against Aborigines in New South Wales towns? What do you think about this segregation against Aborigines in western towns in New South Wales?
I reckon there should be none of it. There should be white, black, all together, live together.
Were you surprised by the news that there apparently is segregation in Moree and other places?
Definitely. I mean, I can live with them down here. They work with me.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. I haven't been reading the papers lately.
But you oppose segregation anyway?
Yes, I do.
They can't help being the colour they are, and they're born the same way as we are, and they should have everything that we have.
And you think they should be allowed to swim, especially the kids?
I certainly do think so, with all my heart.
What about these university students? Do you think they've been helping?
Oh, yes, I mean to say they're born with brains, and I mean to say God gave them brains to be tutored and taught the same as we are, and they will understand their own people better than we would.
I feel that with a black or white colour, it doesn't enter into it. I mean, we're all flesh and blood when it's all boiled down, and I think that these people from Sydney who are bus riding, or freedom riders they call themselves, I feel that they are to be commended in what they are doing.
Yes, I feel that the whole thing of Aborigine is shocking. I think that the government absolutely slips up all the time. I work for the Aborigine a good deal in the mission, and you come to a person who knows quite a lot about the treatment of Aborigines.
And you think that the children should be allowed to swim in the pools with the white children?
Indeed, yes. I think that the apartheid would be worse here than Africa if they don't do something constructive about the children.
A little girl, would you let her swim with Aboriginal children in a swimming pool?
No, I would. They'd be as good as what she is.
Oh, I think the Aboriginals should be allowed in the bath the same as anyone else.
What about your mate?
Well, there's only a pigment in the skin that chases human beings. Everybody's entitled to live, whether they're black, white or brindle.
But what do you think about this question of segregation?
Yes, I really think they should be allowed to swim with the white people.
And what are you doing about helping their kids get into the swimming pools? Anything yourself?
Well, at the present time we can't do much about it till somebody else brings it up. Well, but in my opinion, they're just as good as what we are.
And you think the children should be allowed to swim together?
Of course. They should. They're all children, they're all the same.
I think it's dreadful, really. I think it's a shame that they're not allowed to swim in the pool, because after all, they're human beings.
And what's your feeling?
And they discovered Australia first, and I think it's right that they should have equal. Don't you think so?
I think that the Aborigines should be allowed to swim in any public swimming pool which is operated by a local council or the city-county council, which I think that the Australian Aborigine is equal to one of us. As you know, they were the first in the land before us, and I reckon that segregation against them is silly and ridiculous. I think that they should have the equal rights such as any Australian should have today.
Well spoken. You sell newspapers, do you?
Yeah, I sell newspapers at Newtown Bridge, and I'm a good salesman at that.
Good on you.
So there you are, and that report there from 1965. Interesting to see that, the sentiments out there on the street was that even at that time, that we are all same, we are all flesh and blood, and we should all be doing the right things, and there should be no segregation. Well, right now, Daniel Andrews announced his new ministry.
I never had a doubt this government was a government that accepted and embraced diversity in all its forms, led right from the Premier but throughout the entire caucus. I've always felt comfortable in this government with my partner and my sexuality, and the opportunity now to serve in a different capacity is an honour and a privilege, but it's not something that I'm surprised about, because this government's always had those values. I feel extraordinarily privileged and honoured, but also in the moment of potentially, I suppose, history. There are so many gay men and women that I'm sure have served in Victorian and national cabinets, but not in a way that they could be open. So I'm sort of in feeling a little bit nostalgic for so many others in the past who didn't get the openness and the transparency and the choice because their government, society at that time, wasn't progressive. So I feel, in a sense, that I'm standing here in many other people's place.
There is some history associated with my appointment to this, my election to this role, being only the second woman, and also very few Labor members of Parliament have had this privilege, and also very few people from regional Victoria. So some of those historic milestones are not lost on me. Certainly stepping through it with the kids about what it means, it's been picked up by them as well. And I hope that it demonstrates, as we've heard from my colleagues behind me, that regardless of your background, regardless of your postcode, regardless of your gender, under this state, under the leadership and reform of the Daniel Andrews-led government, we are a community and a society that is inclusive, that sees strong performance rewarded, that sees an equality of opportunity. We've got to keep working hard at that.
Of course, looking at that first report and this report right now is that we really need to keep working at that, promoting that, the social cohesion and the harmony within the communities. Well, right now, all these floods, now especially when you are in units or high rises, what happens when you get flooded? Here's the report.
Near the river in Brisbane's West End, this unit complex is usually a great place to live. But as the torrent fell in February, the basement was flooded.
Someone didn't get the gear out.
And sewage spewed out of maintenance holes.
I think it was very, very stressful for everybody involved.
The biggest problem was abruptly losing power.
Energex cut the power with no notice. If we'd had just half an hour or an hour's notice, we could have got our lifts above the basement.
The lifts were out of action for 6 weeks, the repair bill around $500,000. Electric flood pumps didn't work and about 600 residents lived without power for up to 10 days.
People going backwards and forwards up fire stairs, no lifts, and that made it quite difficult to save possessions.
The building has standard insurance, but flood cover was too expensive. Residents now want the basement transformer moved above ground and maintenance holes shifted out of the car park to avoid another disgusting clean-up.
A number of people, a number of tradespeople, a number of residents actually became quite ill.
More backflow valves are also needed.
The stormwater just came back up into our local streets.
Energex says the sheer number of customers affected by the floods made it impossible to notify them individually before they turned off the power for safety reasons. It says the developer of this building asked them to put the transformer in the basement, but the developer has told residents that was Energex's decision. Nearby, this block is even worse. Stinking residue cakes the walls. A trashed car and belongings have been abandoned. The power's still cut, but a handful of residents have nowhere else to go.
Even if the apartment units themselves are above the flood level, the impacts of flooding in these neighbourhoods are really significant and disruptive.
Councillor Shree wants better buildings and fewer approvals in the flood zone.
But we also need to be leaning on the property developers and the construction industry themselves, because property developers have created this problem through poor design.
The state government says unit owners may be eligible for financial help from the Resilient Homes Fund, but only if living areas were flooded. Emma Pollard, ABC News.
And therein lies that problem of the floods and getting the insurance. You have the insurance, but you exclude the floods because that was too expensive, and what happens? You get flooded. So that's the problem many people face. There are some other kinds of problems which we will look at probably further down the track, but here's a problem which could have been avoided.
Right after a Zoom meeting with families who've lost loved ones to drink drivers, Redlands Mayor Karen Williams admits she drove after drinking several wines and crashed her car.
I think it's pretty untenable for a mayor to remain in that position.
Mayor Williams has apologised and says she made a serious error in judgment, but has refused to step down. Some Redlands residents are outraged.
Preaching about non-drink driving, and she's out there doing it herself. It's a bit hypocritical.
It's about leading by example, and she hasn't done a great job of that.
I definitely think that's something worth losing your job over.
The federal opposition leader echoed the criticism.
People should not drink and drive, full stop.
Peter Dutton says community leaders need to lead by example.
If there's a consequence to pay, whether that's before the law or at the time of the election with their constituents, then people will pay that price, because I don't think the community standard allows people to accept that as behaviour that's tolerable.
There are also calls for the mayor to lose her spot on the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Organising Committee.
I think that would be the right decision.
Police are yet to lay charges and say it could take days or weeks to get blood test results. Local Government Minister Stephen Miles was asked to look into the alleged council budget drinks. A spokesperson confirmed the Redland Council CEO informed the department on Friday of the issue, but won't comment further while police investigate. In 2007, State Labor MP Karen Struthers was fined $1,000 and disqualified from driving for 10 months after pleading guilty to drink driving. She did not resign from Parliament and wasn't stripped of her role as Parliamentary Secretary. Kira Jones, ABC News.
And of course, as they mentioned, that one rule should apply for all and uniform right across the board. Right now in Sydney, 10 people have been arrested during a peak hour protest.
If there was ever a day to work from home this week, then it was this morning for thousands of commuters travelling from Sydney's north into the city this morning. The Sydney Harbour Tunnel was forced to close all southbound lanes after a climate change protester used her white car to block traffic. Police managed to arrest the 22-year-old woman from Lismore after cutting a bicycle lock that she used to attach her neck to the steering wheel. The traffic eventually started moving freely again after almost an hour, but there was chaos in the city involving dozens of demonstrators. Some threw rubbish bins onto the road, others grabbed street signs and pavers from construction sites to create disruptions. At one stage, a car was seen driving into activists, but thankfully no one was injured. In total, 11 protesters were arrested. Police say they are facing several charges between them, and penalties of up to a $22,000 fine and 2 years behind bars.
What I will say, the behaviour of this group was nothing short of criminal activity. The throwing of bicycles, the throwing of garbage bins, the throwing of other items in the path of police, in the path of media, in the path of innocent members of the public just walking by will not be tolerated and cannot be by the people of New South Wales or the New South Wales Police.
Well, the protesters are from a group called Blockade Australia. They are demanding more action on climate change. They have previously hijacked our ports and train lines to create disruptions, and police are expecting further disruptions later this week. They say they will be out in force again, and they'll also be reviewing CCTV, mobile phone footage and body-worn cameras, and expect further arrests to take place later this week.
And more arrests coming, of course, you get your point across, but, why would you do it in the morning and affect so many people going about their daily duties in a diligent manner? Well, right now, we'll go to this report before we go to Daily India report. It's going to be tax time in 2 days' time, meaning not tax time or the official beginning of the tax time, because after everything's accounted to and up till the 30th of June, as we know, the financial year on this side of the world. So what would the ATO be looking at in this financial year?
It's that time of year again, tax time. Every year, about 8.5 million Australians claim about $20 billion worth of work-related expenses. The average claim is about $3,000. To help us get a better understanding of what the ATO is looking at this tax time, I'm here at the tax office and I'm going to be speaking to Assistant Commissioner Tim Lowe. Hello, Tim.
Hi, Nassim. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So, Tim, a lot of people will have COVID-related work expenses. What are some things they can and can't claim?
Now, what we are seeing from people is people continuing to claim car and travel expenses at pre-pandemic levels, but we do expect car and travel expenses to go down quite significantly, because if you've been working from home, you can't be at two places at once. Now, with those rapid antigen tests used for work purposes, you need to satisfy 3 rules. You must have spent the money yourself and not be reimbursed by your employer. Secondly, it must be related for work-related purposes.
Rental deductions is always a big one. What are some things you're looking at here?
One thing we are seeing people do is refinance their investment loans and use that extra funding to invest in things like a boat or a car, which are considered to be a private expense. Another thing we sometimes see people do is claim the kitchen reno, so as an outright deduction. So if they spent $20,000 on a kitchen reno, you can't claim that as an outright deduction. You can claim that over a period of time, but not outright as a deduction.
Cryptocurrency is obviously growing in popularity. How many Australians are claiming in this space, and what are you keeping an eye on?
Over 800,000 Aussies have been investing in crypto in the last few years. So we're really focused this year on making sure people understand that when you sell, swap or exchange crypto, there is a taxable transaction, and also to make sure that you keep good records.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thanks, Nassim.
So there you are. That's what the tax department would be looking for. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our Daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India report that brings you reports, interviews, features and much more on India and the Indian diaspora. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Germany to attend the G7 summit addresses the Indian diaspora. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Munich on a 2-day visit to Germany, during which he will attend the G7 summit and discuss issues like energy, food security, counter-terrorism, environment and democracy with the leaders of the powerful bloc and its partner countries. While addressing the Indian diaspora in Munich, Modi praised the contributors of the diaspora in promoting India's growth story and acting as a brand ambassadors of the country's success as he interacted with them in Germany. During a massive diaspora event at the Audi Dome Indoor Arena, he highlighted India's growth story and mentioned various initiatives taken by the government to further achieve the country's development agenda.
आज 21वीं सदी का भारत चौथी औद्योगिक क्रांति में इंडस्ट्री 4.0 में पीछे रहने वालों में नहीं, बल्कि इस औद्योगिक क्रांति का नेतृत्व करने वालों में से एक है। इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी में, डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी में भारत अपना परचम लहरा रहा है।
Thousands of members of the vibrant Indian community in Germany participated in the event.
भारत अब तत्पर है, तैयार है, अधीर है। भारत अधीर है प्रगति के लिए, विकास के लिए। भारत अधीर है अपने सपनों के लिए, अपने सपनों को संकल्प कर लेकर के सिद्धि तक पहुंचाने के लिए अधीर है। भारत आज अपने सामर्थ्य में भरोसा करता है, अपने आप में भरोसा करता है। इसलिए आज हम पुराने रिकॉर्ड तोड़ रहे हैं और नए लक्ष्य हासिल कर रहे हैं।
Modi in Europe continued the theme of democracy from his Mann Ki Baat. He said democracy was a pride of India and the DNA of every Indian. Recalling the infamous emergency of 1975, Modi said June 26 was important as 47 years ago an attempt was made to hold democracy hostage and crush it. The people of India answered all conspiracies to crush democracy. We Indians take pride in our democracy wherever we are. Every Indian proudly says that India is the mother of democracy. Flood condition improves in the Indian state of Assam, though 5 more died and 22 lakh people have been hit. The flood situation in Assam state improved on June 26th, although 5 more persons died and over 22 lakh people continued to reel under the deluge across 25 districts, an official report said. The Assam State Disaster Management Authority said that 5 persons, including 4 children, drowned at different places in Barpeta, Kachar, Darang, Karimganj and Morigaon districts during the day. Besides, 2 are missing in 2 districts, it said. The total number of people losing their lives this year's flood and landslides in the state has now gone up to 126. It added that over 22,21,500 people were hit due to the floods in Bachkali, Baksa, Barpeta, Kachar, Chirang, Darang, Dhemji, Dhubri, Dibrugarh, Golpara, Golaghat, Hailakandi, Nalbari, Sonitpur, South Salmara, Tamulpur and Udalguri districts among others. Barpeta is the worst affected with nearly 7 lakh people in distress, followed by Nagaon, 5.13 lakh people and Kachar, over 2.77 lakh people. Urban flooding has also been experienced at several places in Kachar, Dibrugarh and Morigaon districts. Till June 25th, over 25 lakh people were impacted by the deluge across 24 districts. Spike in new COVID-19 cases as India logs over 17,000 new infections, 21 deaths in 24 hours. India reported 17,073 fresh COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours on June 27th, a jump of 45% from June 26th. As many as 11,739 new COVID-19 cases and 25 deaths were recorded on June 26th, according to the Union Health Ministry. The country's daily positivity rate stands at 4.39%, whereas its weekly positivity rate is reported as 3.30%. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on June 26 said that India is close to administering 200 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses, adding that the precautionary dose is being rapidly administered in the country. Modi also advised people to take necessary precautions like hand hygiene and masks and also be alert about the disease caused by surrounding filth during the rainy season. Indian cyclist covers 480 kilometers Leh-Manali stretch in 55 hours, sets a world record. Indian state of Maharashtra's Pune city's Preeti Maske, a mother of 2, created an ultra-cycling world record by becoming the first woman to cycle solo from Leh to Manali in 55 hours and 13 minutes. Officials claim that the 45-year-old has fulfilled the requirements of the Guinness World Record after covering the 480-kilometer stretch. She holds a record for the fastest woman cyclist on the Golden Quadrilateral, comprising a distance of 6,000 kilometers, they said. Preeti said, age is no barrier to exploring one's passion. She was flagged off by the Border Roads Organization from Leh at 6:00 hours by Brigadier Gaurav Karki, Chief Engineer BRO at Leh, the official said. At Manali, she finished the ride at 1:13 p.m. on June 24th in the presence of Colonel Shabarish Vachali, Commander BRO. Experts said the route was very tough with an 8,000-meter elevation gain. The Guinness World Record had given her a window of 60 hours to complete this challenge, they said. Preeti holds several records in the long-distance cycling. India to roll out e-passports for hassle-free international travel. The Indian government is working to roll out e-passports in a move to make international travel easier and hassle-free and enable protection against identity theft. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, while delivering a message on the occasion of Passport Seva Divas, informed about this development and reaffirmed the government's effort in enhancing citizen experience and public delivery. He added the government will continue its commitment to delivering the next level of citizen experience. He noted that the passport services were provided with the same vigor and enthusiasm during the COVID-19 pandemic. The government has also managed to set a record while dealing with increased demand built up due to the pandemic, with a monthly average of 9 lakh and 4.50 lakh additional applications granted in the last 1 month. The External Affairs Minister also announced that the Passport Seva program will be embarking on an upgraded and improved version of PSP V2.2 to ensure a digital ecosystem among all stakeholders and offer enhanced passport services to citizens. The upgraded Passport Seva system has been integrated with the DigiLocker system to facilitate a paperless documentation process, he said. The Indian cricket team wins against Ireland in the first T20 cricket match. Hardik Pandya had a memorable start to his stint as the Indian cricket captain, as the all-rounder led the team to a comfortable 7-wicket victory over Ireland in a rain-affected first T20 in the ongoing 2-match series in Dublin. Chasing a stiff target of 109 in a 12 overs per side contest, India raced to the finish line in just 9.2 overs to take a 1-0 unbeatable lead against Ireland. Hardik could not have asked for a better start as India's T20I captain, as the all-rounder led the front, delivering with both ball and the bat. Hardik picked up a wicket and hit a 12-ball 24 as India comfortably outclassed Ireland in Malahide. Hardik Pandya became the 8th player to lead India in the men's T20I cricket, and he achieved a new record as the Baroda all-rounder and became the first India men's T20I captain to pick up a wicket in the shortest format of the game. Hardik achieved the feat when he dismissed Ireland's opener Paul Stirling as early as second over of the match. Notably, it was the combination of Hardik Pandya and Deepak Hooda that delivered for India with the bat after a strong start from Ishan Kishan. Hardik and Hooda staged a 64-run stand in just 31 balls as they took the game away from Ireland. The makers of Rocketry, The Nambi Effect, have released a new trailer of the film ahead of its release on July 1st.
किसी कुत्ते को मारना हो तो अफवाह फैला दो कि वो पागल है। ठीक उसी तरह किसी इंसान को बर्बाद करना हो तो ये ऐलान कर दो कि वो देशद्रोही है।
The second trailer of the much-awaited release, Rocketry, shows the determination of Nambi Narayanan in launching commercial satellites for India, for which he is ready to go to any length. He is even ready to leave the offer from NASA to serve his nation, but he is declared a Deshdrahi, a traitor. The trailer concludes with the words, "Sometimes a man wronged is a nation wronged." The film is written and directed by R. Madhavan, who essays the lead role of aerospace engineer Nambi Narayanan in it. Rocketry is based on the life of Nambi Narayanan, a former scientist and aerospace engineer of the Indian Space Research Organisation. In 1994, Narayanan was charged with leaking vital defence secrets to 2 alleged Maldivian intelligence officers, Mariam Rashida and Fawzia Hassan. The scientist fought his own case in Supreme Court and was declared not guilty in 1996.
मैं एक रॉकेट साइंटिस्ट हूँ।
That's all in today's bulletin.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in this this segment. Right now, let's take a quick look at the functions and events taking place. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you today. Don't forget that tomorrow we have the two segments. 9 a.m. we'll have the news update, and 10 o'clock we'll have the real estate update with Usha Chandra. Until then, it's goodbye from us. We'll see you all tomorrow. It's been wonderful having your company.